Lieutenant Nari stared at her screen and frowned. The signal was weak, but it was definitely there. She adjusted the controls and listened again. Her hands moved quickly across the keyboard as she tried to clean up the sound. "Got something strange here," she said to herself. The monitoring station on Ganymede was quiet tonight. Most of the crew was sleeping. Nari was alone in the communications room, surrounded by screens that showed the empty space around Jupiter's moons. She had been doing this job for 3 years now, and most nights were boring. Ships came and went. Signals were routine. Nothing exciting ever happened. But this signal was different. She pressed the playback button again. Through the static, she heard words in Galactic Standard. The language was broken and hard to understand, but the fear in the voice was clear. "Dying, entire fleet destroyed, unknown enemy, coordinates attached. Please, anyone." Nari sat up straight. Her heart started beating faster. She checked the source of the signal. It came from Velrin space, 3 weeks away at maximum speed. The Velrin were peaceful traders. They had helped humans learn about the galaxy when everyone else ignored them. She hit the emergency button. Lights flashed red throughout the station. Within minutes, Captain Jiho rushed into the room, still putting on his uniform jacket. Behind him came other officers, looking worried and confused. "What is it?" Jiho asked. Nari played the recording. Everyone in the room went silent as they listened to the desperate voice begging for help. "When was this sent?" Jiho asked. 4 hours ago, Nari replied. "Sir, the Velrin helped us when we first made contact with the Council. They were kind to us when nobody else would even talk to us." Jiho nodded slowly. He knew this was going to be complicated. Humans were new to the galaxy. The Galactic Council had made it very clear that Earth should stay in its own space and not get involved in other species' problems. The Council thought humans were dangerous because they came from Earth, a Class 12 death world. Most species in the galaxy came from gentle planets with low gravity and no predators. Earth was considered one of the most dangerous planets in known space. "Get Admiral Taiho on the line," Jiho ordered. It took 20 minutes to establish a secure connection to Earth. Admiral Taiho appeared on the main screen. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen many battles. Jiho explained the situation. He played the recording, then he waited. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. "The Council told us to stay out of galactic affairs. If we send ships, they will be angry." "Sir, the Velrin are dying," Jiho said. His voice was calm but firm. "They sent a distress call. We can't just ignore it." "The Council might see this as humans being aggressive," Taiho said. "They already think we're too violent, too dangerous." "Maybe we are dangerous," Jiho replied. "But we're also decent. When someone calls for help, we answer. That's what makes us human." Around the room, the other officers nodded. Nari felt proud to serve under a captain who would stand up for what was right. Taiho smiled slightly. "I was hoping you would say that. I already spoke with the president. We're authorizing the Third Fleet to launch." "You'll be in command, Captain Jiho." Jiho straightened. "Sir, thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Taiho said. "You're taking 12 warships into unknown space to fight an unknown enemy. The Council will probably try to stop you, and if things go wrong, Earth might face consequences." He paused. "But you're right. We can't ignore people who need help. That's not who we are." The connection ended. Jiho turned to his crew. "Alert the Third Fleet. We launch in 6 hours. I want every ship ready for combat." The station became a storm of activity. Nari sent messages to all 12 ships in the fleet. Engineers checked weapon systems, pilots prepared their fighters, soldiers loaded equipment and supplies. In the hangar bay, Engineer Doyun supervised the loading of the flagship. He was a broad-shouldered man who understood every system on the ship. "Check those railgun magazines again," he shouted to his team. "And I want backup generators tested 3 times. We don't know what we're flying into." The human warships looked brutal compared to Council vessels. They had thick armor plating, redundant systems, and weapons that other species considered primitive. Humanity built ships expecting them to take damage and keep fighting. Other species built elegant ships that relied on shields and speed. Dr. Hanil walked through the medical bay, making sure everything was ready. She was small and quiet, but everyone knew she was the best doctor in the fleet. "Prepare for mass casualties," she told her staff. "If the Velrin fleet was destroyed, whatever did it is powerful." 6 hours later, the Third Fleet gathered in space above Ganymede. 12 warships, each one carrying hundreds of crew members. They formed up in attack formation, ready to jump to faster-than-light speed. Captain Jiho sat in his command chair on the bridge of the flagship. Around him, officers worked at their stations. The main screen showed the other ships in the fleet, waiting for his order. "Sir, all ships report ready," Nari said from her communication station. Jiho took a deep breath. He thought about the consequences of what they were about to do. The Council would be angry. There might be political problems for Earth. But none of that mattered as much as the simple fact that someone needed help. "Helm, plot a course to the Velrin coordinates," he ordered. "Maximum speed." "Course plotted, sir," the helmsman replied. "All ships." "This is Captain Jiho," he said over the fleet channel. "We received a distress call. We're going to answer it. That's what humans do. We don't abandon people who need us. Whatever we find out there, we face it together. Prepare for FTL jump." The ship's engines glowed brighter. Space around them began to shimmer and bend. "Jumping in 3, 2, 1, jump!" The stars stretched into lines of light. The Third Fleet disappeared from Earth space, racing toward the unknown at speeds that bent the laws of physics. They had no idea what waited for them. They didn't know if they would find survivors or just corpses. They didn't know what enemy had destroyed an entire fleet. But they were going anyway. Because when someone calls for help, you answer. That was the human way. In her quarters, Lieutenant Nari looked at a photo on her wall. It showed her and several Velrin traders at a space station 3 years ago, when Earth had just joined the galactic community. The Velrin had been patient with her broken galactic standard. They had taught her about other species. They had been friends when humanity desperately needed friends. "We're coming," she whispered to the photo. "Hold on, we're coming." The fleet raced through the darkness between stars, carrying Earth's answer to the galaxy's indifference. 12 ships, thousands of humans, all rushing toward danger because someone, somewhere, had asked for help. The age of the Deathworlders was beginning, and the galaxy didn't know it yet. 3 weeks of travel felt like 3 years. The crew waited and prepared. They ran combat drills every day. They checked their weapon systems over and over. They tried not to think about what they might find. When the fleet finally dropped out of FTL speed, everyone held their breath. The main screen showed a nightmare. 47 Velrin ships floated dead in space. Their hulls were torn apart in ways that made no sense. Metal didn't just break or burn. It looked dissolved, like acid had eaten through it. Some ships were split in half. Others had holes so big you could see right through them. Not a single light blinked on any vessel. Not a single engine glowed. They were all dark and silent. "Life signs?" Captain Jiho asked. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair. Ensign Yuna checked her tactical screen. She was young and new to the fleet, and her face had gone pale. "No life signs, sir. None at all." Her voice shook. "Sir, there should be thousands of Velrin on these ships. Where are they?" "Scan for weapon signatures," Jiho ordered. Engineer Doyen worked at his station, running every scan he knew. "Sir, these weapons, I've never seen anything like this. The energy signatures don't match any Council weapon or anything in our database. It's like the weapons didn't just destroy the ships. They unmade them." Dr. Hunnell stood near the back of the bridge, staring at the screen. She had seen death before. She had treated soldiers injured in training accidents. But this was different. This was murder on a massive scale. "How long ago?" she asked quietly. 6 hours, Doyen replied. "Whatever did this, it happened 6 hours ago." The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. If the human fleet had been faster, if they had pushed their engines harder, they might have arrived in time to help. 6 hours, just 6 hours too late. "Deploy fighter squadrons," Jiho ordered. "Search for escape pods or survivors. Check every ship." Pilot Sora led her squadron out of the hangar bay. 20 small fighters spread out among the wreckage, scanning and searching. Sora was one of the best pilots in the fleet, calm and skilled, but even she felt sick looking at the destroyed ships up close. "This is Fighter 7, one of her pilots called over the radio. "I think I found something. Sending coordinates." Sora's fighter darted toward the location. There, floating near a broken Velrin cruiser, was a small escape pod. Its hull was scorched and damaged, but a weak power signature showed it might still be functional. "Recovery team, we have a possible survivor," Sora reported. It took 20 minutes to bring the escape pod into the flagship's hangar bay. Dr. Hanel rushed down with her medical team. Engineers carefully opened the pod's door. Inside were 3 Velrin. The Velrin were small, delicate creatures. They had 4 arms and large eyes that could see colors humans couldn't. Their skin was pale blue and very thin. They looked fragile compared to humans, like they might break if you touched them too hard. All 3 were injured. Burns covered their bodies. They breathed in short, painful gasps. "Get them to medical," Hanul ordered. Her team carefully lifted the Velrin onto stretchers. In the medical bay, Hanul worked quickly. She had studied Velrin biology, but treating them was different from reading about them. Their bodies were so different from human bodies. What helped humans might hurt Velrin. One of the Velrin opened his eyes. He looked at Dr. Hanul with what might have been fear or hope. She couldn't tell. "You're safe now," she said gently. "We're humans, from Earth. You sent a distress call. We came to help." The Velrin made a sound. The translation device near his bed crackled to life. "Humans? The Deathworlders?" "Yes," Hanul said. "Don't try to talk. Save your strength." But the Velrin grabbed her arm with surprising strength. "No, must tell. Must warn." He coughed, and blue blood stained his lips. "Vorthak. They came from the Rim. They don't talk. They don't negotiate. They only harvest." "Harvest?" Hanul asked. "Species. Technology. They consume everything. We called the council. They said we were outside protection zones. They wouldn't help." The Velrin's voice was bitter. "We were alone. 47 ships, against 6 of theirs. We didn't stand a chance." Captain Jiho had come to the medical bay. He stood nearby, listening. "Why did they attack you?" The Velrin looked at him. "We helped you. The humans. The council didn't like that. They warned us. But we thought being kind was more important than politics." He coughed again. "We were wrong." Another Velrin, an older one with scars on his face, spoke weakly. "I am Ambassador Quillen. I remember you, Captain Jiho, from the first contact meeting. You were kind to us." Jiho stepped closer. "Ambassador, tell me about the Vorthak. What are they?" Quillen's eyes closed for a moment. "Harvesters. Scavengers. They take from the weak and grow stronger. They've destroyed 17 species that we know of. The Council knows. They do nothing. As long as the Vorthak stay away from Council worlds, they're allowed to hunt in the outer territories." "That's insane," Jiho said. "The Council just lets them kill?" "The Council is afraid," Quillen whispered. "They've been at peace for so long, they've forgotten how to fight, how to be brave. They hide behind their rules and let others die." Ambassador, we'll get you help, Jiho said. We'll contact the council. Demand they take action. Quillen laughed, but it turned into a cough. More blue blood came from his mouth. Dr. Hanul worked frantically, but she could see he was dying. No help. Too late for us. But you, Captain Jiho, you must listen. The Vorthak hunt for Deathworlders specifically. Strong species are prizes to them. They'll learn about Earth eventually. When they do, they'll come for you. Don't let them find your world. Hide. Please. We don't hide, Jiho said firmly. That's not what humans do. Quillen stared at him. Then you're already dead. Like us, the Vorthak cannot be stopped. Everything can be stopped, Jiho replied. Before Quillen could answer, alarms blared throughout the ship. Lieutenant Nari's voice came over the intercom, urgent and scared. Captain to the bridge, now! Long-range sensors are picking up 6 ships. They're coming fast, very fast. Jiho looked at the dying ambassador. Is it them? Quillen nodded weakly. They came back. They always come back to check for survivors, to make sure they got everything. His eyes filled with tears. Run, Captain, please. Run while you still can. Jiho turned and ran toward the bridge. Behind him, Ambassador Quillen closed his eyes for the last time. The other 2 Velrin were unconscious and barely alive. Dr. Hanel looked at her medical team. They all understood what was about to happen. The creatures that destroyed 47 ships were coming, and the human fleet was standing right in their path. On the bridge, Jiho dropped into his command chair. The main screen showed 6 ships approaching. They were strange shapes, organic-looking, like they had been grown instead of built, dark purple and black. They moved with a grace that seemed wrong, like sharks circling prey. How long until they reach us? Jiho asked. 10 minutes, Ensign Yuna said. Sir, their energy signatures, they're enormous. Each one of those ships could probably take on 3 of ours. Around the bridge, crew members looked scared. They had trained for combat, but this was different. They had seen what these weapons could do to ships. They had seen the Velrin corpses. Engineer Doyen spoke up. Sir, we could jump to FTL. Get out of here. Report back to Earth. It was the smart choice, the logical choice. Run away, go home, tell Earth what they'd found. Let someone else deal with it. Jiho looked at the screen showing the dead Velrin ships. He thought about Ambassador Quillen's last words. He thought about the 17 species that had been harvested while the Council did nothing. He thought about what it meant to be human. No, he said. We're not running. Sir? Doyen said, surprised. Jiho stood up. Send a message to the fleet. All ships. Battle stations. Prepare for combat. We're going to show these Vorthak what happens when they pick a fight with Deathworlders. The crew stared at him for a moment. Then, one by one, they began to smile. It was a crazy decision, probably a suicide mission, but it was the right decision. It was the human decision. All ships acknowledge, Nari reported. Sir, Pilot Sora says her fighter wing is ready to make them regret ever coming here. The 6 Vorthak ships dropped out of FTL right in front of the human fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. The 2 forces faced each other across empty space. Then the Vorthak opened fire. The first Vorthak weapon hit the flagship's shields like a wave of purple fire. The bridge shook violently. Lights flickered. Several crew members grabbed their consoles to keep from falling. Shields at 80%, Ensign Yuna shouted. Sir, that was just one shot. Captain Jiho gripped his armrest. Return fire! All weapons! Engineer Doyen's fingers flew across his console. The flagship's railguns thundered to life. Massive metal slugs, each one weighing several tons, launched from the ship at incredible speed. Behind them, missiles streaked through space, their engines leaving bright trails. The Vorthak ships tried to dodge, but they were too slow. 3 railgun rounds slammed into the lead Vorthak vessel. The impacts were brutal. Chunks of dark purple hull exploded outward. One missile got through their shields and detonated against their side. Nuclear fire bloomed in the darkness. "Hit!" Doyun reported, shocked. "Sir, we actually hurt them." Around the fleet, the other human ships opened fire. The space between the two forces filled with streaking weapons and explosions. It was chaos and noise and destruction. The Vorthak returned fire with their matter destabilization weapons. Purple beams struck human ships, but something strange happened. The human vessels didn't dissolve like the Velran ships had. Their hulls glowed where the beams hit. Metal peeled away in layers, but underneath was more metal, and underneath that, even more. "They're trying to eat through our armor," Doyen said, "but we've got triple-layered hulls. It's working, but slowly. Too slowly." Weapons Officer Siak laughed from his station. It was a wild, excited sound. "They've never fought anyone who could take a hit before. Their weapons are designed for soft targets. We're not soft." Another Vorthak beam struck the flagship. This time it punched through the outer hull. Alarms blared. "Hull breach on deck 7, Nari reported. "Emergency bulkhead sealing." "Keep firing," Jiho ordered. "Don't give them time to adjust their tactics." Pilot Sora led her fighter squadron into the battle. 20 small fighters swarmed around the Vorthak ships like angry insects. The Vorthak tried to target them, but human fighters were fast and unpredictable. Sora and her pilots had trained on Earth, where split-second decisions meant life or death. They dove and weaved through enemy fire. "Fighter 7, hit their port engine cluster," Sora commanded. Her wingman acknowledged and fired a spread of missiles. They struck home, and one of the Vorthak ship's engines went dark. In the flagship's engineering section, Doyen studied the enemy ships on his screens. His mind worked fast, analyzing every detail. "Captain, I'm noticing something. Their ships are fast, but not heavily armored. They rely on their shields and those dissolving weapons. They've probably never fought anyone who uses kinetic weapons." "Kinetic weapons?" Jiho asked. "Railguns, missiles, physical projectiles. Most council species use energy weapons, lasers, plasma, that kind of thing. The Vorthak shields are designed to stop energy, not solid objects." Jiho understood immediately. "So we're the worst possible enemy for them." "Exactly, sir." On the navigation console, Navigator Minji had been calculating something. She was a quiet woman who rarely spoke. But when she did, people listened. "Captain, requesting permission to try something crazy." "Define crazy," Jiho said, watching another Vorthak beam tear into their shields. "The Vorthak are maneuvering like council ships, slow, predictable formations. They expect us to do the same." Minji's fingers danced across her controls. "But we're from a high-gravity world. We can handle G-forces that would kill most species. I can put us in positions they won't expect." Jiho thought for only a second. "Do it." Minji's hands moved. The flagship's engines roared to full power. The massive warship suddenly accelerated and turned at an angle that seemed impossible for something so large. The G-forces pressed everyone into their seats. Some crew members gasped. But humans were built for this. Earth's gravity was stronger than most planets. Human bodies could handle pressure that would crush other species. The maneuver brought the flagship directly alongside one of the Vorthak vessels, point-blank range, so close they could see damage on the enemy hull. "Fire everything!" Jiho ordered. Doyen didn't hesitate. Every railgun on the flagship's starboard side fired at once. The noise was deafening even through the ship's insulated hull. Hundreds of tons of metal slammed into the Vorthak ship at a significant fraction of light speed. The enemy vessel split in half. Atmosphere and debris exploded outward. The two halves of the ship spun away in different directions, engines dying, lights going dark. The first Vorthak kill. A cheer went up on the bridge, but it was short-lived. There were still 5 more enemy ships, and they were angry now. The Vorthak changed their tactics. They stopped trying to dissolve the human ships. Instead, they focused their fire on one target at a time, trying to overwhelm the defenses through sheer power. The destroyer, Busan, took a full salvo from 2 Vorthak ships. Its shields collapsed. The beams tore into the hull. Explosions rippled along its length. "Busan is venting atmosphere," Nari reported. "They're trying to evacuate crew to the aft sections. All ships, focus fire on the 2 Vorthak attacking Busan," Jiho commanded. The fleet responded immediately. 11 human warships all turned their weapons on the same 2 enemies. The concentrated firepower was devastating. Missiles and railgun rounds hammered the Vorthak vessels from multiple angles. One of them tried to retreat but took a nuclear missile directly to its engine section. It stopped moving, dead in space. The other Vorthak ship activated some kind of emergency speed boost and managed to pull away. But it was trailing debris and clearly damaged. Marine Commander Quan had been watching the battle from the hangar bay, waiting for orders. He was a big man, even for a human, with scars from a dozen training accidents. He spoke into his radio. "Captain, the dead Vorthak ship. Permission to board it. We might learn something useful." Jiho considered. It was dangerous. The ship might explode or have automated defenses. But Quan was right. They needed information. "Granted, but be careful." Quan grinned. "Careful is boring, sir." Within minutes, Quan and his marine team were in armored suits, crossing the empty space to the dead Vorthak vessel. They cut through the hull and entered. Inside was dark and filled with alien atmosphere that would kill a human in seconds. But the suits protected them. They found Vorthak bodies. The creatures were tall and insect-like, with 4 arms and armor-like carapaces. They looked dangerous. But they were dead now, killed when the ship lost power and atmosphere. "Taking samples," Quan reported, "and looking for a data core or computer system." Back in space, the battle continued. 2 more Vorthak ships had been heavily damaged. But so had 3 human vessels. The Busan was barely holding together. The cruiser, Daegu, had lost engines and was drifting. The destroyer, Ulsan, was on fire internally, crew fighting to save it. Pilot Sora's squadron had lost 4 fighters. 4 of her people were gone. The rage she felt was cold and focused. She led the remaining 16 fighters straight at a wounded Vorthak ship. They fired everything they had: missiles, cannons, even some experimental plasma weapons. The Vorthak ship's shields finally collapsed. The fighters' weapons tore into unprotected hull. Secondary explosions rippled through the enemy vessel. It started to break apart. "That's 2, Sora said over the radio. 3 to go." The remaining 3 Vorthak ships seemed to hesitate. They had come expecting easy prey. They had found Earth's warships instead. Ships that took punishment and kept fighting, weapons that tore through their shields, pilots who flew like maniacs, Marines who boarded dead vessels for information. One of the Vorthak ships turned and activated its FTL drive. It jumped away without warning. "One is running," Yuna reported. "Let it go," Jiho said. "Focus on the other 2. But the second Vorthak ship also retreated. It limped away at high speed, trailing debris, and then vanished into FTL. That left 1 Vorthak vessel. It was the most damaged of all. Dead in space, engines dark, weapons offline. The human fleet surrounded it. "Sir, that ship is helpless," Nari said. "It's not a threat anymore." Jiho looked at the screen. He thought about the 47 Velran ships, about Ambassador Quillen dying in their medical bay, about the 17 species that had been harvested, about the Council doing nothing. "Board it," he ordered. "I want that ship captured. I want their computers, their weapons technology, everything. And I want prisoners if any are alive." Marine Commander Quan's voice came over the radio. "Already on it, sir. Heading over now." The battle was over. 3 Vorthak ships destroyed, 2 fled, 1 captured. The human cost was heavy. 3 ships badly damaged, 57 dead, nearly 200 wounded. But they had won. In the medical bay, Dr. Hanoel worked on the wounded, both humans and the surviving Velrin. She was exhausted but wouldn't stop. "Keep them stable," she told her team. "We didn't come all this way to lose people now." On the bridge, Captain Jiho looked at the wreckage floating around them. Vorthak debris and damaged human ships, the cost of victory. Engineer Doyen spoke quietly. "Sir, we beat them. The species that destroyed 47 Velrin ships. We beat them." "We surprised them," Jiho replied. "They didn't expect Deathworlders to fight back. Next time, they'll be ready." "Then we'll be ready too," Doyen said. Jiho nodded. He opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, this is Captain Jiho. Well done. You've shown what humans can do when we stand together. Repair your ships. Help the wounded. Rest, because this isn't over. Those Vorthak that escaped will tell others about us, and we need to tell the galaxy what we found here." He closed the channel and looked at Nari. "Send a message to Admiral Taiho. Tell him we engaged and defeated a Vorthak force. Tell him the Council has been letting these creatures harvest species for years. And tell him we're bringing proof." Intelligence Officer Bora had been working for 3 days straight. Her eyes were red from staring at screens. Empty coffee cups littered her workspace, but she had finally cracked the Vorthak database. "Captain Jiho, you need to see this," she said over the intercom. Her voice was shaking. Jiho arrived in the intelligence section within minutes. Bora looked exhausted and angry. She pulled up files on her main screen. "I decoded their navigation logs and target lists," she said. "The Vorthak haven't just attacked the Velrin. Over the past 10 years, they've harvested 17 species, completely destroyed them. Billions of lives." Jiho felt cold. 17 species? Bora nodded. She pulled up another file. "But here's the worst part. The Vorthak have been monitoring Council communications. They know which species are under Council protection and which aren't. They only attack the unaffiliated ones. The Council knows?" "They know, sir." Bora's hands shook as she showed him more files. "There are intercepted Council transmissions in this database. They discuss the Vorthak as a natural pressure that keeps unaffiliated species from growing too large. They use them as a tool." Jiho stared at the evidence in disbelief. The Galactic Council, the organization that claimed to represent peace and civilization in the galaxy, had been allowing genocide. Not just allowing it, using it for political purposes. "There's more," Bora said quietly. She pulled up a specific communication. "This is from 6 months ago. Council members discussing the Velrin. They call them the human sympathizers. They talk about how the Velrin needed to learn a lesson about associating with Deathworlders." The words on the screen were clear. The Council had known the Vorthak would attack the Velrin. They had done nothing. They had wanted it to happen. Jiho's hands clenched into fists. "Copy all of this. Everything. Send it to Admiral Taiho immediately." He went to his quarters and opened a secure channel to Earth. When Admiral Taiho appeared on the screen, Jiho didn't waste time. He explained everything Bora had found. Taiho listened in silence. His face grew harder with each revelation. When Jiho finished, Taiho was quiet for a long moment. "If we release this, it will cause chaos in the galaxy," Taiho said finally. "The Council will deny it. They'll call it Vorthak propaganda. They'll say we're trying to cause trouble." "Then what do we do?" Jiho asked. "We need proof they can't deny," Taiho replied. "Do you have any Velrin survivors who can testify?" Jiho thought of the 2 Velrin in the medical bay. One had died during the battle. But Alina, a young Velrin scientist, had survived. "Yes, one. Good. Keep her safe. And Jiho, be careful. You're about to make very powerful enemies." The conversation ended. Jiho went to the medical bay. Dr. Hanul was checking on Elena, who lay in a bed designed for smaller species. The Velrin looked fragile and sad. "How is she?" Jiho asked quietly. "Physically, she'll recover," Hanul said. "Emotionally, she lost her entire family in the attack, her parents, her siblings, everyone she knew." Elena's large eyes focused on Jiho. The translation device activated. "You're the captain. You saved me." "I wish we'd arrived sooner," Jiho said. "Elena, I need to ask you something difficult. The Vorthak database shows the Council knew about the attacks. Did you have any evidence of this?" Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Yes. I was a communications officer on my ship. I intercepted Council transmissions 3 months ago. They were discussing my people, saying we had made poor choices, that consequences would teach us wisdom." Her voice broke. "I told my captain. We sent the information to Council representatives. They told us we misunderstood, that the Council would never abandon anyone." "Do you still have copies of those transmissions?" Jiho asked. "In my personal files. On a data chip I keep with me always." She reached under her bed covering and pulled out a small device. "Here." Jiho took it carefully. "This small chip might change everything." "Thank you, Elena. You're very brave." "I'm not brave," she said softly. "I'm just angry. The Council could have saved us. They chose not to, because we were friends with humans. Because we thought Deathworlders deserved kindness." She looked at Jiho with tears in her large eyes. "Were we wrong? Should we have been afraid of you?" "No," Jiho said firmly. "You weren't wrong. Humans remember kindness. We remember friendship, and we pay our debts." Before Elena could respond, alarms sounded throughout the ship. Jiho ran to the bridge. "Captain, we have 15 ships dropping out of FTL," Lieutenant Nari reported. "Council vessels." The main screen showed a fleet of elegant ships. They had smooth hulls and glowing engines. They looked beautiful compared to the battered human warships. At the center was a massive diplomatic vessel. "They're hailing us," Nari said. "On screen." The image changed to show a Council envoy. The creature was tall and thin, with silver skin and 3 eyes. It wore elaborate robes that marked it as high-ranking. The nameplate identified it as Thessian Prime. "Human vessel, this is Council Envoy Thessian Prime," the alien said. Its voice was cold and condescending. "You have violated Council space protocols. You engaged in unauthorized military action. You will surrender the captured Vorthak vessel immediately and return to Earth space." Jiho kept his expression neutral. "Envoy Thessian Prime, we responded to a distress call from Velrin vessels. We found them destroyed. We engaged the attackers in self-defense." "The Velrin were not under Council protection," Thessian Prime said. "Their affairs are not human concern. You have overstepped your authority." "They sent a distress call," Jiho replied. His voice was calm but firm. "We answered." "That's what civilized beings do." Thessian Prime's 3 eyes narrowed. "The Velrin chose unwisely in their associations. Every species must face the consequences of their choices. The Council cannot protect everyone. Resources are limited." Dr. Hanul, standing near the back of the bridge, whispered to Ensign Yuna, "Resources? The Council has thousands of member species. They could have sent 1 ship." Jiho realized the truth in that moment. The Council didn't lack resources. They lacked courage. Every species in the Council came from safe worlds, low-gravity planets with gentle weather and no predators. They had built their civilization on comfort and bureaucracy. They had forgotten how to be brave. "Envoy Thessian Prime," Jiho said. "We found evidence in the Vorthak database. 17 species have been harvested while the Council watched. The Velrin were targeted specifically because they helped humanity. The Council allowed it to happen." "Ridiculous accusations," Thessian Prime said. Vorthak propaganda cannot be trusted. You will surrender that vessel immediately or face consequences. What consequences? Jiho asked. Will you send the Vorthak after us too? Thessian Prime's face showed shock, then anger. You dare accuse the Council of such actions? We are the foundation of galactic civilization. We maintain peace. You maintain nothing, Jiho interrupted. You hide behind rules and let others die. You're cowards. The bridge went silent. No one spoke to Council envoys that way. No one challenged them directly. Thessian Prime's voice turned icy. Captain Jiho, you have just guaranteed that Earth will face severe sanctions. Your planet will be isolated. Your species will be marked as hostile. You will regret this. Maybe, Jiho said, but I'll sleep well tonight knowing I tried to help people who needed it. He turned to Nari. Open a channel. Broadcast to every species in range. Maximum power. I want everyone to hear this. Nari's hands moved. Channel open, sir. Broadcasting on all frequencies. Jiho stood and faced the screen. He knew this moment would define humanity's future in the galaxy. This is Captain Jiho of Earth. To any species threatened by the Vorthak, to anyone the Council has abandoned, we're sending you a message. Humans are Deathworlders. We come from a dangerous world. We know how to fight. We know how to survive. And we remember our friends. He paused. If you need help, send us your coordinates. We're coming. That's a promise. Thessian Prime sputtered. This is outrageous. This is a violation of every protocol. The Council will not stand for this. Then stand against us, Jiho said calmly. But know this. We just beat a Vorthak fleet that destroyed 47 ships. If you want to fight Deathworlders, you're welcome to try. The transmission cut off. The Council fleet didn't attack. They didn't move at all. They just hung in space, probably reporting to their superiors and trying to figure out what to do. Within minutes, Nari's console started lighting up. Sir, we're receiving transmissions, dozens of them. Species sending distress calls, coordinates, requests for help. How many? Jiho asked. 47 so far, still counting. Sir, they're all asking for the Deathworlders. Jiho looked at his crew. They looked back at him with determination. They had come here to answer one distress call. Now they had dozens. Engineer Doyen spoke up. Sir, we can't help everyone. We're just 12 ships. 11, Ensign Yuna corrected quietly. The Busan won't make it home without a tow. Jiho nodded. Send all the distress calls to Admiral Taeho. Tell him Earth needs to decide if we're going to be the galaxy's protectors or just another species that looks away when people suffer. He sat back in his command chair and looked at the Council fleet on the screen. They still hadn't moved. They didn't know what to do with humans who refused to follow their rules. Sir, Nari said softly, what if Earth says no? What if they decide this is too dangerous? Jiho smiled slightly. Then we ask for volunteers, because I don't think humans are very good at ignoring people who need help. On the screen, more distress calls appeared, more species begging for aid. The galaxy was crying out, and for the first time in years, someone was listening. 6 months changed everything. The Third Fleet returned to Earth as heroes. The video of Captain Jiho standing up to the Council envoy spread across the human networks. People saw what their military had done. 12 ships defending 47 destroyed vessels. Humans fighting for aliens they barely knew because it was the right thing to do. Earth's government debated for 2 weeks. Some politicians wanted to apologize to the Council and stay isolated. Others wanted to help every species that called for aid. The argument grew heated. Then General Hyejin gave a speech to the World Assembly. She was a veteran of Earth's last war, scarred and tough. She spoke simply. The question isn't whether we can afford to help. The question is whether we can afford not to. 17 species were completely destroyed while the Council watched. The Velrin died because they were kind to us. How can we look at ourselves if we do nothing? She paused. Humans have always been fighters. Let's fight for something that matters. The vote was close, but it passed. Earth would build a defense fleet, not just for humans, but for anyone who needed protection. Construction began immediately. Shipyards around Earth and Mars worked day and night. New warships took shape, bigger ones, stronger ones, ships designed specifically to fight the Vorthak. But humanity didn't work alone. The Velrin, grateful and angry, sent their best engineers. They shared their knowledge of alien technology. The mining species from the asteroid belts offered rare metals for armor. The methane dwellers, who moved through space faster than anyone, taught human navigators their secrets. Even some council species quietly helped. Not officially, but through private channels. Species who were ashamed of what their government had allowed. They sent weapon designs, shield technology, medical knowledge. Scientist Yuri led the weapons development program. She was young but brilliant. She took captured Vorthak technology and turned it against them. "If they can destabilize matter," she said to her team, "we can destabilize their shields." 6 months after the first battle, the Allied Defense Force was born. 200 ships. Not all of them were human. 47 species had joined, contributing what they could. The Velrin sent trading vessels converted to medical ships. The asteroid miners sent tough cargo haulers equipped with weapons. Everyone brought something to the Alliance. General Hyegen commanded the fleet from the UESC Indomitable, Earth's first true battle carrier. It was massive, carrying 200 fighters and enough firepower to level a small moon. Captain Jiho, promoted to Admiral, commanded the forward battle group. Lieutenant Nari was now Captain Nari, leading a destroyer. Pilot Sora trained mixed-species fighter squadrons. Marine Commander Quan taught aliens how to fight in close combat. They didn't wait long to be tested. The Vorthak, enraged by their defeat and humiliated that prey species had fought back, gathered their forces. 200 ships. Every vessel they could spare. Their target was obvious: Earth. Long-range scouts detected them 3 weeks out. The Vorthak were coming to make an example, to show the galaxy what happened when Deathworlders got too bold. "Let them come," General Hyegen said at the strategy meeting. "This is our home. Let's show them what that means." The Allied Defense Force didn't meet the Vorthak in deep space. Instead, they prepared a trap. Neptune's orbit became a fortress. Human engineers placed automated weapons on dozens of ice chunks. They positioned missile platforms throughout the rings. They mapped every gravity well and asteroid. When the Vorthak fleet arrived, they found the Allied Defense Force waiting. The battle that followed would be studied for generations. Navigator Minji, now commanding her own ship, used Neptune's gravity to accelerate a squadron to incredible speeds. The Vorthak ships tried to track them but couldn't keep up. Human vessels whipped around the planet like stones from a sling, firing as they passed. Weapons Officer Siak coordinated firing solutions across 50 ships simultaneously. When the Vorthak bunched their formation, he ordered everyone to fire at the same spot. Thousands of projectiles converged on one location. The Vorthak shields overloaded. Ships in the center of their formation were destroyed by their own neighbors' debris. Engineer Do-Yun had a brilliant idea. He captured 3 damaged Vorthak vessels earlier in the battle. Now he sent them toward the enemy fleet, broadcasting false signals. The Vorthak thought they were their own ships returning. When they got close, Do-Yun detonated the nuclear warheads hidden inside. The explosion took out 12 Vorthak ships. Marine Commander Quan led boarding teams onto 50 Vorthak vessels at once. It was insane. It was impossible. But Quan didn't care about impossible. His Marines, mixed teams of humans and aliens who had learned from humans, fought through enemy ships room by room. The Vorthak were strong, but they had never fought enemies who could match them in close quarters. Pilot Taewon, flying the new experimental fighters, led his squadron through maneuvers that would have torn apart regular ships. The G-forces were brutal. Only humans and a few other Deathworld species could survive them. But those maneuvers let them get behind Vorthak's ships and hit their weak points. Dr. Hanol commanded a fleet of hospital ships. She saved humans and aliens both. She even saved some Vorthak who surrendered. "We're not monsters," she said when someone questioned her. "We're showing them what civilized species do." The battle lasted 14 hours. It was brutal and exhausting. Ships on both sides were destroyed. Thousands died. But when it was over, the Vorthak fleet was broken. 60 ships destroyed. 80 fled back to the Galactic Rim. 60 surrendered. The cost to the Allied Defense Force was heavy. 30 ships lost. 2,000 casualties. Admiral Jiho stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the casualty reports. Each number was a person. Someone's friend. Someone's family. But they had won. Earth was safe. The Alliance had held. 3 days after the battle, a council delegation arrived. Not Envoy Thessian Prime, someone higher. The Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Council, an ancient being whose species was one of the oldest in the galaxy. They offered humanity a seat on the council, full voting rights, recognition as a major power. Admiral Taiho, now Earth's official representative, traveled to the council station to accept, but he brought conditions. "We'll join your council," Taiho said, "but things are changing. No more abandoned species. No more unaffiliated zones where predators hunt freely. From now on, when someone sends a distress call, it gets answered. Period. That's non-negotiable." The Supreme Chancellor looked at the human. Behind Taiho, on screens, images of the Allied Defense Force showed 200 ships in formation. 47 species united, all of them ready to fight. "You're demanding we change centuries of tradition," the Chancellor said. "Yes," Taiho replied simply. "And if we refuse?" Taiho smiled slightly. "Then the Allied Defense Force operates independently. Every species that wants real protection joins us instead of you. Eventually, you're not the Galactic Council anymore. You're just a club for species too scared to do the right thing." The Council had no choice. They agreed. 5 years later, Captain Nari sat in a training station orbiting Earth. She was teaching young officers from 20 different species. They were learning how to respond to distress calls, how to coordinate fleet actions, how to fight when necessary. On the wall was a memorial. It listed every being who died in the battles against the Vorthak, Velrin, humans, and dozens of other species. At the top was Ambassador Quillen's name. Below the names, an inscription in multiple languages. "When they called, we answered. We always will." The Vorthak still existed, but they stayed far away from civilized space. They had learned that Deathworlders were not prey. They were predators who chose to protect instead of hunt. The galaxy was safer, not perfect but better. The Council had learned courage from species that had always been brave. And the Allied Defense Force stood ready, a mix of humans and aliens, powerful and gentle species working together. In her office, General Heejin read reports from across the galaxy. Fewer distress calls now. The predators had learned that victims had allies, strong allies, dangerous allies. She looked at a photo on her desk. It showed the original Third Fleet crew: Captain Jiho, Lieutenant Nari, Engineer Doyen, Pilot Sora, Dr. Hanul, all of them together after the first battle. Young and scared, but determined. They had changed the galaxy by doing something simple. They had answered a call for help. That was what Deathworlders did. They protected. They fought when necessary. They stood up when others would not. And they never, ever left anyone behind. Across the galaxy, on 100 worlds, species told stories about the day humans arrived, about the fleet that came when no one else would, about the Deathworlders who proved that strength meant nothing without the courage to use it for good. The age of the Galactic Council's shame was over. The age of the Allied Defense Force had begun, and the stars were safer because of it. Somewhere in deep space, another distress call was being sent, and somewhere, human ships were already turning toward it, ready to answer. Because that was what Deathworlders did. They always would.